Good morning. Today is May the 6th, 2014, and it is 9:05-ish, something like that. And I'll call the meeting to order. I feel like I need a gavel. I do think Felicia does need a gavel. You do? Okay, wow. Oh, she'll be surprised. So we'll have to get it for her. I'll begin by introducing our board members and staff. With me today are my colleagues. To the left is Board Member Dee Diadamo, and to my right, Board Member Tam Doduk, and to his right, Board Member Stephen Moore. His right. I said that, didn't I? Well, you'll understand later when I report on what I did this last week. Okay. Mr. Howard, would you introduce your colleagues, his and hers?
Thank you. Assisting the board today are Janine Townsend and Courtney Davis. To my right, Chief Deputies John Bishop and Karen Turgovich, and to my left, Chief Counsel Michael Loffer.
Now we'll go through the emergency procedure. Please look around and identify the exit signs closest to you. In the event of a fire alarm, we're required to gather up your valuables and evacuate the room immediately. We have to evacuate to Cesar Chavez Park. You are welcome to join us, which is catty-cornered across the street. There's this is for Felicia. There's a Starbucks at the on the other side of the park, and there's also a temple that's just down the street. So we should be able to entertain ourselves. Obey all traffic signals and be careful when crossing the street. Also want to let you know that this meeting is being webcasted and recorded, so please speak into the microphone when you come up. And the most important last item is to be sure that you turn off all cell phones and beepers during the meeting. And with that, I will let Felicia get, well, we do have one public forum person to speak at the public forum. The public forum is for people wishing to speak on items that are not on the agenda. And we do have one person Dennis Fox, who wants to speak on EJ funding at the local level. If there are others who want to speak, be sure and fill out a blue card and bring it up to Janine. Welcome back. We've seen you before. That's great.
Hello. Oh, microphone? Up and, yeah. No. You have to. Basically, you need to make sure. Okay. So that people on the webcast can hear you.
Yeah, how is that?
Okay. One second.
Okay, oh, now I'm in stereo. I'm in stereo now. Yeah, I just thought something that might want to take up.
Real close.
Yeah, as driving up here, you may notice on the signs that Congress caused the drought, big signs on the side of the road. And you say, wait a minute, everybody says Congress is in gridlock. That's because they're taking time out to, adjust the weather, No. But it does make sense if that's your frame of reference. Much of the land and the water that was acquired is from the largesse of the Congress and the governments in that area. One guy had his little farm went from Taft, California to the middle of Oregon. He brought in Italians, a whole village. They were good farmers. Some other guys did it good, and they got the land and the water. They brought in English gentry, the lords and the ladies, who were very poor farmers, and they needed serfs. They brought in pikers from Missouri, after Pike County, famous for Jesse and Frank and the younger brothers. Then they brought in Okies. Now they're bringing in Hispanics. They needed serfs. And what I'm getting at is it's a mindset that is still going on. These people were at each other's throats for lawsuits, the same thing going on now in the 1800s. What they have now are the serfs paying for the patron's water. And it's something that should be considered when it's sent out. City of Bakersfield, I know, uses about 1/8 of the water, pays 7/8 of the county water bill. There was a water bank put up, and immediately a marketing committee was set up. And the water bank seems to be embezzled. Underneath the wildlife refuge, it's pumped out from underneath it, and that is shrinking. The water is, they don't have enough water for the ducks, and you're going to end up with a cholera epidemic. Today, there is a park, a regional park that gets water for the fish. And for some reason or other, that's different than we got food and fish. You know, it's on the signs on the road. But anyway, their citizens are buying the water for that lake, and it's being pumped out and reverse flowed to Kings County by somebody who got the land for draining Kings County. So, and another instance is that Lost Hills, you will see no lawns. They have the highest water rates. They're buying water for their boss. And this is something that should be considered. The city of Bakersfield has an excess of treated water, but nobody seems to want it. Something that these things should be factored in. And I think the EJ issue is who's, they're paying for it. And it's not the wealthiest area in the world. It's kind of Appalachia West. So it's something that should be considered when it's a factor. And in fact, you're supposed to be considering it, but nobody seems to think about EJ issues. And it's something you should be thinking about water costs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now I turn it over to Felicia.
All right, where are we?
We're at board business.
Board business. My apologies. Fortunately, I was driving with my husband, so I abandoned him with the car to wait for AAA on the other side of the Tower Bridge. I don't know. The car just made noises and stopped. So we will take a mid-morning break. Did you already say this? We'll take a mid-morning break for people to take care of personal needs, whether it could be the restroom, coffee, or calling your husband to find out where he is with the car, whatever it is. So we'll take a break somewhere in the 10 to 10:30 period, and we will take a break for lunch, although it can sometimes go till as late as 1, depending on the flow of our conversation. So I'll give a heads up about when it seems like we might be having lunch somewhere between 11 and 12. We'll figure that out based on people's convenience. I've yet to have to take a poll of the audience, but that doesn't mean it won't happen today to see what people's preferences are. Next, it's time for the board minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or correction? I'm sorry, I always look at you when we get to that. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed?
Yep.
Okay, terrific. Board member
And
report.
that is for
2 minutes, April 1st and April 22nd. All right, board member reports. Which side should I start on today? I'll start on the left.
Okay, on April 23rd, Board Member Moore and I joined the Regional Administrator of EPA and USGS on a tour of a section of the Delta, focusing primarily on Sassoon Marsh. And it was a terrific day. For those who haven't been out in that area, I really encourage it. I learned a lot. On the 29th of April, I spoke at CASA's Public Policy Forum, primarily focused on recycled water, drought, Governor's Action Plan, or the Water Action Plan. Also, on that same day, California Cotton Ginners and Growers and Western Ag Processors Association, and spoke to that group, drought, irrigated lands, and groundwater. And then on April 30th, I attended the Almond Hullers and Processors Association annual meeting in Santa Barbara and did a similar presentation, drought, groundwater, irrigated lands, and the Water Action Plan. And then yesterday appeared before the California Women for Agriculture, same topics.
Since our last board meeting, I was a speaker on groundwater at the Southern California Water Dialogue. There's a lot of interest in Southern California, as you can imagine, on groundwater, and a representative from the California Water Foundation was there to present the work that they're doing, which is being considered for use by the legislature. I serve on an advisory committee to the Cal State system, Cal State University system, and I have to report the young people who are in the Cal State system, both professors as well as students, are doing an amazing amount of work on water. So if you're looking for talent to bring into your organization, or you're looking for people to do studies, I would definitely recommend looking at your local Cal State university. They are, if you haven't looked there in the last 2 years, it has changed dramatically just in that period of time. Very impressive. And I also am serving on an advisory committee to the Public Policy Institute of California, who are being considered for a grant to establish a water center, another big opportunity for the state of California. But more importantly, I just got back yesterday from Jazz Fest, where I celebrated my 70th birthday. And
Les bon temps brûlés.
and it was fabulous. And as I've already told Karen like 10 times already, the young jazz performers are out there and they're crazy, going wild, and so much better than their elders. And I suspect the same is true in terms of water. So we should all be humble when we hear from younger folks that we should be doing things differently. I suspect we should and can. So thank you. That was my week. 2 weeks.
That's quite a report. That was great.
I think you should keep the hat on for the rest of the board meeting.
That's what Anna said too.
Well, definitely belated happy birthday to the vice chair. I just wanted to report back on an item that I raised at the last board meeting during the executive director's report. It was regarding the draft, actually there is no draft yet, the effort that is ongoing to develop a statewide permit for discharges from drinking water system. And I noted at the last board meeting that there is a potential duplication of effort that I'm concerned about. Since that last board meeting, I've had the opportunity to attend a joint meeting by the Central Valley as well as our own State Water Board staff on this permit. And I have to say that I was really impressed by the work that the Central Valley region has done with their stakeholders. And I just want to take a moment and acknowledge and thank Executive Director Pamela Creedon for recognizing the value in efficiency and collaboration, and having the state and Central Valley Regional Water Board collaborate together in this effort. I think the work that they've done there will provide a very strong foundation for the statewide permit that that staff is working on. Unfortunately, there is still a duplication of effort with the San Francisco Bay Regional Water Board, but I think that's more as a result of the unique funding situation that they have there for that effort, in that it's not being funded through the usual budget allocation, but through a separate agreement that they have with their dischargers in that area. I'm all in support of getting funding for the regional boards, but I think eventually, if that effort continue to proceed, we might be looking at an effort using other resources to undo something that was done through this effort. So, I mean, we'll cross that bridge if we come to it. But in the meantime, I did want to say that I was very impressed by the work of the Central Valley Regional Board staff, and also very impressed with the work of DWQ staff. And I understand now that Diana Messina and Vicki Whitney are now working with potentially the LA Regional Board staff as well as the San Diego Regional Board staff on this permit, and I look forward to having one statewide permit on this very, in my opinion, relatively low threat discharge coming to this board for consideration in August.
Okay, thank you. That's a great update, Tam. Thank you. I share your interest in that goal in a consistent statewide permit in August. So anyway, my last couple of weeks have been pretty busy. As Board Member Diadamo noted, I participated in a tour of Sassoon Marsh and Yolo Bypass areas of the North and West Delta with EPA and USGS, but also members of the Delta Science Program, and it was great to tour with Board Member Diadamo. Certainly we learned a lot. I have a lot of experience in wetland restoration in the Bay Area, tens of thousands of acres under my watch in both technical and regulatory. And I just was inspired by very real science-based opportunities to restore wetlands in the Delta. Seeing it firsthand, seeing the research that's being done to support it. Don't be distracted by some areas in the Delta that may not be imminently restorable. Those areas, if you do more research and learn more, there's plenty of opportunity there. And I speak from somebody who has experience. So that was inspiring, and that was on the April 23rd. So and then Wednesday, April 30th, I was asked by the California Watershed Network to speak during their annual Watershed Day at the Capitol. And they just gave me an assignment to give an inspirational message. And that's kind of interesting, right? A civil engineer
Hey, we could be inspired.
working on for the state board, give an inspirational. And then I've had to follow Secretary John Laird. You know, oh yes, no problem. Well, the name of my talk was a call to reconnect Californians with water and each other, and really that, you know, that if Californians become more engaged, our citizenry, and more water literate, just the prospects for prosperity are great. And so anybody want to hear the inspirational message sometime, I'll do it some other time. Yeah. So on May 1st, I then went to Los Angeles. I was invited to speak on a panel called Keep It Flowing, Financing California's Water Future. And there, you know, Southern Californians, as Fran alluded to in her report, are real interested in the concept of governance, not just in groundwater, but in integrated water management. And so I spoke on that panel about some concepts that have been discussed at when the governor's office held their groundwater hearings, both Aqua and California Water Foundation concepts on improving our groundwater oversight at the local level. But also the recent PPIC, Public Policy Institute of California report on paying for water in California. So these are very fertile discussions in Southern California, and it was a privilege to participate in that. That was May 1st. On May 2nd, I went up to Eureka, California. I'm the liaison to the North Coast region, and I spoke at a conference called Your Voice, Your Future. It's held by the State Bar Association, or is that the right term? Yeah, State Bar Association, and then the Environmental Law section. Thanks, Michael, I appreciate that. It's really an outreach to the public on issues of water management, and so the topic that I spoke on was the drought and how it's affecting North Coast communities. So certainly folks in the audience today well aware of how it affects, you know, the central part of the state. North Coast has their own story, and so we went into some detail about that. And I shared the panel with Department of Water Resources representative, very knowledgeable about the overall facts of the drought this year. So I felt like we had a chance to really connect with not just local government folks, but people on the ground. And I want to acknowledge earlier in the day, The topic was marijuana cultivation, and I want to acknowledge the talk by our Chief of Office of Enforcement, Chris Kerrigan. Did an excellent job communicating the legal aspects of this challenge. And then Scott Bauer of the Department of Fish and Wildlife did just a very moving and excellent job of showing the scale of the marijuana cultivation challenge on the North Coast. And it's very sobering, it's systemic. There's some very deep-rooted challenges, and at the same time, folks really are rallying around the challenge and putting forth a great effort to try to draw attention to it and begin to manage it. On May 5th, yesterday, I spoke at the California Wetlands Conference held by CLE International, and there I spoke about sort of the general framework of wetlands regulation, both federal and state, and then our forthcoming proposed wetland policy and the history behind that and the process and the timeline of that. But I also take these opportunities to remind folks of California's water future and the role of wetlands in that future, not just as something to protect the last 10, 15% that we have, but to think of wetlands as part of our clean water infrastructure. And, you know, just as a civil engineer, I think of pipes and pumps and concrete, the so-called gray infrastructure. We need to look at wetlands, riparian systems as our treatment network that is part of a green infrastructure component of an overall clean water infrastructure. So we'd like to make sure that we're giving a message of integration at the state level that would mirror our hopes at the local level. So with that, that's my overview of the last couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thanks, all. Busy last couple of weeks. I'll just mention a few things. I've been spending a lot of time on groundwater lately and the ongoing dialogues within the administration and with outside parties, and had the opportunity to go down to Ventura for a conference that had all the various water agencies in the Ventura region, which has had a number of difficulties, and it was just an inspiring meeting where I was able to share with them what's been happening at the state level, the myriad reports that have now come out, our groundwater concept paper, the workshops that we've had with the administration that all my colleagues have been at or listened to online over the course of the last few months. And now as we head into a more focused legislative session, those discussions will just continue. I'll also be talking at Aqua tomorrow, I think it is, on a panel on groundwater, which in 6 months is very different from the last one I spoke on, where people were just talking about examples in the field. This time there'll be people from the California Water Foundation talking about their report, and from Aqua talking about their newest committee proposal, all of which are in a similar framework to the administration proposal. So I'm sure we'll come back with yet another deepening of the dialogue about where we need to go on groundwater. The only other couple of things I'll mention, I had the privilege of speaking in LA a week ago, Friday, at the LA Business Council's Sustainability Summit that they do once a year. I was on a panel on water with a focus on sustainability in the future in the state, but also in Los Angeles in particular, and just the cutting edge stuff that's happening down there. Just, I know Fran gets to live in it all the time, is really just pretty inspiring. And then that was followed by speeches by Mayor Garcetti, who is really a trendsetter and a leader on sustainability issues. And at its heart, his low impact development work in LA as the co-sponsor of Proposition O. So that was quite wonderful. And then it was capped off with an address by the governor, which was really fantastic, with no notes, talking not only about water, but about nature and how we need to recognize our place in that in a way that was very sophisticated and real, I would say, and realistic, and then of course climate. So it was just great to be able to be there and hear that. The other thing I did that I don't know how many of you have already done is go on a tour of some of the abandoned mine sites up in the Sierra to deal with. I know, Tam, they were talking about that you going there, you were seeing the engineering fixes to everything, and that helped them see them. So it was really interesting, with some proposals for figuring out how to remediate some of the abandoned mine drainage and sediments, and I won't get into it now, but it was just actually, as challenging as that issue was, it was inspiring. So I encourage other people to take that tour when they get the chance. I'll stop with that in the interest of time and get going on the rest. Mr. Howard, we have one uncontested item. Do you want to tee it up?
Yes, this is a resolution authorizing the executive director to execute a 2-year agreement with the Dtsc regarding payment for our work in Department of Defense sites. I assume there aren't any comments.
And if there are no public comment sheets on this item, I will move for its adoption.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, no opposition? It carries. Thanks very much. Item number 4 is an informational item, our standing item on the drought.
Yes, we're just going to have a brief description today from Amanda of some of our work on drinking water issues.
Thanks. So normally there's 3 of us up here, but your next item after this is on the Delta. So you'll get a lot of discussion on that issue there. I'm Amanda Montgomery, and I'm the program manager for water rights permitting and licensing. And I'm just going to give you a general update on what's been happening on drought-related activities in my section. So I'll start with urgency changes to existing water rights permits and licenses. Just a reminder that we keep a list on our drought website of all those urgency changes, when we receive them, a general description, and the status. So since I last updated you on April 22nd, we haven't received any new urgency changes. We have 2 existing requests that we continue to process. One is from El Dorado Irrigation District for their wastewater change order, and the other is from Hidden Valley Lake Community Service District in Lake County regarding their augmentation flows to Puda Creek. We have also, since I last updated you, acted on 2 of the urgency changes. The first one was on April 29th, we issued an approval order to Malacha Hydro Limited Partnership up in the Pitt River watershed in Lassen County. And that approval relaxes the minimum bypass flow from 50 CFS to 25 CFS and authorizes temporary storage in the reservoir. That change was supported by fisheries agencies. So the way that those urgency changes work is that we can issue the order, and then after the order is issued, we can have a public noticing period, and the order could be revised as an outcome of that. We have publicly noticed that Malacha order, and the comment period ends on May 29th. We have not received any comments yet, but most of the time we receive comments on the last day. It's just so the second item that we approved here at the board was on April 24th, the board issued an approval order for an urgency change request and a transfer for Merced Irrigation District down in the San Joaquin Valley. And what that order does is relaxes fisheries flows and reservoir minimum pool requirements. That basically makes more stored reservoir water available for 2 purposes. The first is that about 25,000 acre feet of it is freed up to add flows to the Merced River and is also consumptively used by MID's customers downstream. And then 5,000 acre feet was sent down the Merced River into the San Joaquin up to the Delta pumps. So that's a transfer of water to San Luis and Santa Clara Valley water districts. That also helped provide spring pulse flows in the Merced and the San Joaquin River. And my understanding is those pulse flows already occurred last week in April and were coordinated with NIMS and NOAA and Department of Fish and Wildlife. So that one, also, since we issued the order, was recently noticed, and the comment period closes on May 26th. So last time I was here, I was asked about the other urgency change approvals that we've had and the noticing period that's occurred, and if we'd had any comments. And so I talked about Sonoma County Water Agency, which actually happened before the drought proclamation. It was at the end of December, and we received a comment there, and we had a response. On the other changes that orders that we've issued for City of Santa Cruz and for Yuba County Water Agency, there was 2 urgency changes there. We did not receive any comments. So next, I'm going to transfer over to water transfers. Yeah. So again, we maintain a table on our drought webpage that lists all the transfers, when they're received, what the timeline is for completing those. And last time that I updated you, I talked about a joint listening session we were going to have to outreach to the public, to hear their ideas on streamlining our process here at the State Water Board and also the process at Department of Water Resources. We held that listening session last Tuesday, and we gave presentations from the staff and also from DWR staff on our process, and we had one public commenting organization. That was the California Economic Summit SOAR Water Transfer Team. So they came and made verbal remarks and gave us a lengthy document of their ideas for streamlining. So we're reviewing that both here at the water boards and at DWR. We're continuing to meet every 2 weeks with DWR, Reclamation, and the fisheries agencies to discuss water transfers. And we'll discuss those comments that we received at the streamlining session, go through those line by line to see which of their ideas we recommend could be moved forward on. In terms of water transfers in general, we received 2 new water transfers last Friday. One was from Garden Highway Mutual Water Company. They did a transfer with us last year. And the second was from Plumas Mutual Water Company. So one thing to note about these 2 transfers is they're the first that we'll process under the new governor's proclamation. One of the things that governor's proclamation did is it just reiterated the importance of streamlining our processing, and it also made the noticing period, it was 30 days and it's now 15 days. So these 2 new transfers will be going through under that 15-day noticing period. Yeah. And the other thing that the governor's proclamation did is it waived CEQA for transfers, but these are Water Code 1725 transfers. CEQA's already not required for them from our side. Okay. So we're continuing to process transfer requests for 2 in-delta transfers from Reclamation District 2026 and 756 to Semi-Tropic Water Storage District. The action date on these transfers was delayed at the request of the petitioner. There's very set dates in the Water Code for when we act on transfers, but they requested additional time, and we can do that when we concur with their request. Basically, they're working closely with 2 of the commoners, Department of Water Resources and U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, who could potentially be other legal users of water in that watershed to try to find a solution to the possible injury issue. So the new due date for that is next Monday, May 12th, or sooner if they can get their issues resolved. So next, I'm just going, because since I'm the only one up here, I'm going to take a minute and talk about our work with communities that are at risk of running out of water. So as I mentioned before, the California Department of Public Health maintains a website list of communities that are at risk of running out of water, and I checked it yesterday, and it's down to 2 communities. The first one is Whispering Pines, which is a small apartment complex up in Mariposa County, and they're actually on groundwater. We've contacted them, their groundwater system, they don't need our assistance. The second one is the city of Montague, which is up in the Shasta River watershed, and that's what I'm going to just talk about our interaction with them today. So staff has been meeting frequently over the last several weeks with the city of Montague, which is the party at risk of running out of water, and the Montague Water Conservation District, which is the party that has the water right to Lake Shastina that normally serves as the water supply for the city during summer months. Due to the ongoing drought, water in Lake Shastina is at record low levels. In addition, there was a recent court settlement, and the district is now required to alter how it allocates water according to the water rights for Lake Shastina. The district normally supplies water to the city by releasing water into a canal, but the canal is unlined, and this method of moving water can result in conveyance losses of up to 95%, which is pretty substantial. Because the district has a limited amount of water it can supply to the city, due to the drought and the settlement, a more efficient method of moving water is needed. The current proposal is to release water from Lake Shastina into the Shasta River and redivert the water at a new point of rediversion, which will necessitate construction of a new point of diversion and infrastructure to move that water from that new point of diversion to the city. Because the water in Lake Shastina exceeds temperature standards in the summer, the release of water in this manner will be conditioned on temperature limits. Therefore, the proposal also includes construction of a new well and infrastructure to move water from the well to the river to the eventual point, the new point of rediversion. It's a little bit complicated, but we have to overcome that issue with temperature. If the city moves forward, likely the Montague Water Company, the water rate holder, will file a temporary urgency change with us to add a new point of rediversion. And obviously, we're working with them closely, and when they do file that, will be, our highest priority, get that through. Recognizing the fact that providing water to the city is not included in the district's water rights, the district also plans to file petitions to make changes, the necessary changes to their water right. The long-term changes will be mindful of the current drought situation, include related planning. So I just wanted to give that community as a highlight of the work we're doing.
I have a question on that.
Sure.
Cost, if you happen to know.
I don't know
proposed
the
cost and timing.
Sure, I don't know the cost per se, but I could look into that and talk about that when I'm back here in 2 weeks. We could talk more. And by then, I mean, this is an ongoing process. It's not resolved yet. I know from talking to staff that that the city is looking into the feasibility, the access rights, and probably the cost associated with this, and that the meetings that are being attended by staff have many people in the room, DPH people. So I know that funding is being looked at as far as what avenues are available to them. As far as timing, I would have to talk with staff to see how much it's firmed up as far as their schedule. Usually these things happen fairly quickly once the details get worked out as far as feasibility.
Yeah,
Great.
on the timing question though, I mean,
Sure.
as the engineer, I know that there's a whole calendar involved with a project of this scale, so, but this is a community in danger of running out of water. Is there some kind of temporary measures we can take to ensure that the community still can have water, even though it's not in strict compliance with existing water rights?
We would definitely look at anything that's available to us. If they turn in an urgency change to us, we can act on those very quickly.
Right.
In many situations, the party isn't really looking, it's an urgency for them, but they don't need the change immediately. Like when I talked about Hidden Lakes Community Service District, the fish augmentation flow for them actually doesn't kick in until July. So it's not urgency per se, right? It is urgent, but it's not
Right.
tomorrow.
Right.
So, but with a situation like this, we would act on it as quickly as we can. We just have to make sure from the city side that it's feasible for
Yeah,
them.
yeah, absolutely. And then finally, the dam for Lake Shastina has got its own history, and so is that being figured into the long-term infrastructure solution? We say the disposition of Dwinell Dam. Did I have that right?
We would definitely be, I mentioned that we're looking at long-term changes here, so we would factor in any of the relevant information in the long-term change.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Right. I would also add that not every water shortage of a community involves water rights. So you have OES and the governor's office and others. There will be bottled water, trucked water going to communities. The one thing I wanted to add was that in representing the state at the Regional Tribal Operations Committee last week on the drought with Heather Hostler from the governor's office, I did have 2 tribes come to me and say that they are having issues and they don't show up on the lists. So they've been talking to OES. I made sure other folks in the governor's office, rural development, knew. Gita was there, but she's out now. So if you don't mind, I'm going to also link you into that conversation just in case water rights is implicated. I don't know that it is.
Okay.
But
I have another request, but not to take up a lot of your time. I'm hoping that a list already exists. Originally, it was, I think, 17 communities that were on that list.
Right.
I'm just curious how they all got resolved, how much water, what the nature of the challenge was, and how they got resolved.
Okay. We can definitely pull something together. In the division, we meet with like a work group
Right.
on these communities every 2 weeks to kind of triage and talk about what's happening with them. So we can get an update on the other ones. I know Redwood Valley, I briefed you on before. That one we were very involved with. Some of them, just when I personally went through the list, are on groundwater. So we will call or email them and offer our assistance, but sometimes it's purely a groundwater issue and they just deepen the well. But we can look into how each of them was resolved.
yeah, I think it's a mix. There are a number of those communities that end up off the list because it rained enough in their community.
Oh, that's true too.
Yeah, but some, pipes were extended in Willits and other places, so it's a mix.
Sure, we'll pull that together for you.
It's some wonderful stories about communities helping other communities come out of this, so it would be good to get that story arc.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Thank you very much. And now we have the next item, which many of you are here for, but I want to acknowledge the presence of Senator Nielsen. Senator, thank you so much for coming to us. Appreciate that very much. And I note that you've also requested that Folsom, Roseville, and San Juan Water District follow you. So with, if there's no objection, in interest of your time, I suggest we take them out of order before we start the meeting, and I do my opening and all of that, if that's all right with everyone. Senator Nielsen, thank you so much for joining us.
Chairperson Marcus and members of the board, I sincerely appreciate the accommodation to myself and the folks of the community of Roseville, some 500,000 citizens that I represent. Let me preface, because of this last testimony and the fact that I'm a longtime senator for Montague also, although not technically now, their problems are very, very real. Though we're in a handoff period, but Senator Gaines and I, but I still have their interest at mind, and I appreciate, I didn't even have to bring it up, you're already on top of that one. This is a very important issue related to the assurances of supplies for 2014 and 2015, although we have immediate needs as well. And with this recent circumstance, but for these fruitful storms, the last series that came through here, which were not deluges or reservoir fillers, but they at least helped. And you have acted based on that, and I appreciate it very much. Oh, I also must start off by saying thank you very much to the chair and the board. There have been a couple of issues of late that you have been very helpful in not resolving, but making progress on. And in fact, I think we are going to be able to reach some resolution on those, and the cooperation of you and your staff has been very much appreciated by all the parties involved. The Deadpool fate, though, of Folsom Lake still remains. We cannot hope that there would not be a similar situation and drought next year. And what I'm requesting is that as you come forth with a plan for the reservoir operational plan, working with the Bureau of Reclamation, that the economic needs, that the human needs be taken into account, that they are very, very important. The landmark 2009 water plan, which I was very much a part of, was built on several principles. One was co-equal goals. And those co-equal goals reasserted water code provisions long historic of the preeminence of the water rights of humans for human consumption. I would even go further to argue that be human consumption of food products, and agriculture needs some water too, and I know you are sensitive to that issue. This 2009 plan also, in both the operative